Hello, I'm Charles Coves, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Coves Show, the Christmas episode, episode number 90 of this weekly podcast of this weekly YouTube show. In this week's episode, I'm going to explore embarrassment at Christmas. Imagine being embarrassed at Christmas. I'm going to explore how loudly you are willing to sing your Christmas carols. I also explore embarrassment generally and how it can stop you from being who you truly want to be. Fear of embarrassment can be debilitating, but if you're too far out there, you can make a real fool of yourself. Where do we draw the line? When do we speak up? When do we shut up? Stick around. I might have some useful ideas for you. This weekly show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S, self-awareness plus passion equals success, your success. That's what this show is about. And so we're delighted to have you listening or watching, to share some ideas, to share big ideas that can change your life. Since 1993, when I left my successful legal career, although now I'm doing a fair bit of work as a legal strategy consultant, since 1993, I have been educating, inspiring and provoking audiences to discover and pursue passion. Because when you're living life with passion, everything changes. I've helped people in seminars, in conferences, in speeches, in long-term workshops, in one-on-one executive coaching, and in my books, Passionate People Produce Passionate Performance. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." So I hope I succeed in provoking you, inspiring you to examine your life. You can see I'm wearing my red jacket, red the color of passion, so that when you see me, if you're watching this on a podcast, you think red, and then when you see red out in your world on a day-to-day basis, it makes you think about your passion. Are you following your passion? This show explores one big idea each week because too many ideas can confuse us. One big idea. Just imagine 52 ideas over the course of a year could be life-changing. And once you are reasonably competent, tiny little changes can make an amazing difference. Just like I hope in this Christmas show, tiny little ideas can make a big difference to your experience of Christmas. Each week I share some practical resources with you to implement that big idea. A book, lyrics of a song, a quote, a spiritual tip, a health tip, and some humour. After all, life was not meant to be taken too seriously. This show is not meant to be politically correct. It is not politically correct. And I also support useful addictions, including addictions to caffeine, just like my addiction. Ah, Stephanie, I thought of you today when drinking that piece of coffee, that lovely mouthful of coffee. Oh, that's so good. Thank you, Julie. This show definitely subscribes to the view that we have a spirit, a human spirit. This is far, far beyond what you can see and touch and hear with your 5 senses. Your human spirit is an amazing resource, and passion comes from your spirit. Passion is a source of unlimited energy from your spirit, your soul, your heart, that enables you to produce extraordinary results. Why extraordinary? Because most people are not passionate about what they're doing. If you're passionate, you have access to this energy source. So before we get to the big idea, let me explore what's happened over the course of the last week. You all know that I am against jab mandates, injecting poisons compulsorily into anybody, let alone anyone who is a child. And there was a great song that was used at protests in Australia this week, and it goes, "You can shove your vaccine mandates up your bum." Some people say ass, but I won't say that's a bit rude. "You can shove your vaccine mandates up your bum. You can shove your vaccine mandates. You can shove your vaccine mandates. You can shove your vaccine mandates up your bum." Now, I'm about freedom. This show is about freedom. Passion gives you freedom. You're free to have a jab. You're free to put any poison you like into your body. And I'm free to choose not to. Freedom is what makes us human. And I'm pleased to see the protests that are continuing. Yesterday in Melbourne, there were significant protests. Sydney, around the world. Governments are telling us lies. Not everything they say is true. Most of what they say is lies. So how do you know when a government is lying to you? It's like that classic gag, isn't it? How do you know when a politician's lying to you? His lips are moving. The debate is going on about jabbing kids. That is such a disgrace, particularly when you see the Canadian COVID Care Alliance report on the Pfizer testing regime that was released. It is scathing. It is damning. If you want to see that scathing, damning, fraudulent behaviour by Pfizer, and you want me to send it to you, please ask. I'll happily send it to you. In fact, I might put a link to a video about that analysis on the show notes. During the week, I've been reading about Australian government debt burdens, Victorian government debt burdens, Western government debt burdens. What's going to happen with all these debt burdens? And then you get the Great Reset, the New World Order saying you won't own property and you'll be happy about it. I say nonsense. I say there's some major upheavals coming, everybody. However, while all that's happening, cricket goes on. Cricket, you know, those of you who are not in Australia and England, Pakistan, India, the cricket playing nations, Australia's playing the Ashes, playing for the Ashes against England's the second test, and at this moment in time Australia is doing well. Commiserations to my English friends. And I went to a funeral online on Friday. I could not attend personally because double vaxxers were required. Double, what a nonsense that word is too, huh? It's now fully vaxxed. You're going to be, if you've freely chosen to have this jab, you're going to be having it pumped into you every 6 months. How do you feel about that? The Australian government has ordered 150 million doses of this poison. Anyway, Ian Montgomery, called Norton, wonderful man, knew him through the water polo scene, and it was a most moving ceremony. It's amazing to me when you go to a funeral, when I go to a funeral, the stories that I hear and the data and the facts that I hear about people that we never know. We never knew about them. And I suppose it's a function of we don't know everybody entirely, do we? In fact, we don't even know ourselves entirely. That's why this show is designed to help you raise your own self-awareness about you, to be able to answer questions of why do you choose to do that, Charles? Good question. So, to today's big idea. Before I do, I invite you to subscribe to this podcast if you're not yet subscribed, to click the subscribe button on the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. And if you already have, thank you so much for being a subscriber. You can sign up for Passion Points at our website, covest.com or charlescovest.com. You can also download the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest Manifesto for free. Guess that, for free. There's lots of other resources on both websites. Please take a look. Now, today's big idea. First of all, happy Christmas. May this year's Christmas be a joyful one, full of joy, full of fun, full of love. I love Christmas. I grew up. Christmas was such a special part of our family, being one of 6 children. And this is the Christmas edition of the show before taking 1 week off. I don't want to do a show on Boxing Day, which is the 26th of December. We'll be back. I think that'll be on the 2nd of January. Take 1 week off. Is that okay? Dear viewers, dear listeners, I hope you're not mad at me. So I want to talk about embarrassment at Christmas. When you have an opportunity to sing Christmas carols, do you sing quietly or do you sing out loud? And do you sing quietly because you'd love to sing out loud, but you're embarrassed? Now, embarrassment is a very interesting process. If I said to you, define embarrassment, what does it mean to be embarrassed? Singing out loud is a wonderful spiritual experience. It's a physical, healthy experience. Singing out loud. Julie does it all the time. She sings out loud. When she's driving in the car, she sings out loud. I might say when I'm not there because she honours my eardrums. But seriously, singing out loud is a wonderful thing. And then with a group of people singing out loud, singing in a choir, it is such an energising experience. My friend Tanya de Jong organises choirs for the disadvantaged, and choirs have wonderful spiritual outcomes. My favourite definition of music, you've heard me say this before, that music is the language of the soul, so singing is good for us. But we don't sing because we're embarrassed. So what does embarrassment mean? I'm not embarrassed to drink coffee in public, you know. I explore embarrassment in my first book, Passionate People Produce. And what happens is we go, I don't want to be seen to be singing out of tune. Because if I sing out loud and people hear that I'm singing out of tune, then I'll be embarrassed. But what does that actually mean? Let me unpack that a little bit. It means that if I sing loud and other people hear me and I'm singing out of tune, then other people will look around at me and go, how could Charles be singing like that? Look at that bloke. And then that would reduce me in their eyes in some way, because they might be thinking, he's such a bad singer. If he knew he was a bad singer, then he wouldn't sing out loud because he wouldn't want to offend my ears. And then if he has sung out loud, that means that his judgment is askew. And I think Charles is an idiot because he knows he can't sing and he shouldn't have sung, and so I don't like Charles anymore because, you know, he shouldn't be behaving that way. And so in many circumstances, we stop ourselves being free to behave how we want to behave because we're worried about what other people will think. We're worried about that other people will think less of us. And that's what this embarrassment thing is like. And it's like being at a funeral where it can be embarrassing to be crying when you're sad, when you are feeling the emotion of the loss. And we stop ourselves from crying because we think it's embarrassing. Now, I want you to think about, if somebody around you at a funeral cries, what do you think about that person? Do you judge that person for saying that person should keep his emotions or her emotions under control? This is not good to be crying at a funeral. You'd think that was a bit crazy, wouldn't you? But some people would be thinking that. And the embarrassed people would be going, no, I don't want anybody to see that this person's passing has moved me to such a degree. Other areas of speaking up relate to freedom, fighting for freedom, fighting against jab mandates. I'm absolutely opposed to them. No informed consent, breach of the Nuremberg Code that came from the Nuremberg trials. You are free, if you're an adult, to choose to have it. I say that if you were well informed, you would never choose to have it. But don't force it down anybody. That's why one of the key elements of the Nuremberg Code is informed consent, zero coercion. And it is nonsense of governments, it is BS of governments to say, oh, we're not forcing you to have this, we're not mandating you to have this, but you can't have a job unless you do. That's coercion. And if you've signed a consent form for this jab and you get injured, I assure you that your signature under coercion is not a signature at all. You have not actually consented. So you can take that to your lawyer. There are so many cases about people being forced to sign, including forced confessions by the police. They well know that's not consent. Other areas of embarrassment are how we dress. We don't choose to dress how we want to because we don't want to be embarrassed. If somebody is harming another person in public, often we won't go to help the person who's in trouble because we don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to make a show of ourselves. Sometimes it's fear. That's okay. I'm talking about embarrassment today. If somebody's in a train, causing a nuisance of themselves, it takes courage to stand up to your principles to stop a person from behaving in a way that's causing significant distress to others. On the other hand, we've got this fine line, haven't we, between, well, a person's allowed to, no, we don't all have to behave the same way. Now, this embarrassment issue has been exacerbated by the mask wearing. We have, over the last 2 years around the world, been forced to wear masks that have stopped us relating to each other. We have got less practice about relating to each other in public. So I urge you to think about at Christmas this question of embarrassment, and then come to the space of what Christmas is about, which is about family, which is about friends, which is about deepening relationships, about being in an environment where you can re-establish relationships with people that you haven't been spending much time with during the year. That's what Christmas is about. It's a time of getting together and expressing how we feel about family and friends, expressing our gratitude for the relations that we have. Sometimes we are unwilling to express those feelings because they are too emotional. We might be embarrassed about them. I invite you to think about what you would really, truly love to be saying to the people you love, rather than just being, like a brick in the wall of just being controlled. And yes, this is how we do Christmas, and we don't have too much emotion at Christmas. The other angle, of course, is if you're totally free, if you let it all hang out and talk about stuff, perhaps with tongue loosened by too much alcohol, that can cause irreparable harm. You can say things that cannot be unsaid. There's a wonderful saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I've learned that a much more accurate saying is that sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can break my heart. So that's where this freedom to say whatever you feel like can be so dangerous. On the other hand, absolutely suppressing what you want to say is so repressive and so harmful to who you want to be as a human being. So I say, sing out loud at Christmas time with the carols. Take the risk of people realizing that you cannot sing perfectly in tune, and take a step down the road of not being so debilitated by embarrassment in many circumstances that you stop being who you truly want to be. And I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, and I hope that this is an opportunity for you to deepen ties with those that you love, to love even more your family, your friends, your community, and to fight for what you want your community, your country to be. So some resources to reinforce this message. The song, of course, is by Peter Allen. Don't cry out loud. Beautiful, beautiful song. We don't cry out loud, we keep it inside. Just learn how to hide your feelings. Fly high and proud, and if you should fall, remember you almost had it all. Beautiful, beautiful words. I urge you to look at these words, and my message is, yes, do sing out loud. My book to remind you of people who live their lives out loud is by Arnold Schwarzenegger. his autobiography, Total Recall. Now, you might not like his politics, you might not like this, but I'm a big fan of Schwarzenegger in terms of having the courage to do what he wanted to do, regardless of the criticism by others. He was willing to face that embarrassment. My quote for you at Christmas, beautiful quote by Roy L. Smith. He who has not Christmas in his heart will never find it under a tree. And my message to you this Christmas is approach Christmas with a heartful, a spiritual perspective, to think about what really matters to you in terms of the relationships, in terms of love. My spiritual tip is that with those whom you love, focus on their wonderful positive attributes. Do not focus on the negative attributes of the people you love, of your family, of your friends. If you focus on the parts of people that you don't like, you won't like them. You will soon fall out of love. When you choose to focus on their wonderful attributes, it changes your experience. My health tip is moderation, is balance. I stand for the principle of balancing mental, physical, and spiritual elements. So, it's great. It's great in the short term to wipe yourself out with lots of alcohol and lots of food, but you pay a price for months to come. It can have a big impact on your body, and perhaps too much alcohol makes lips too loose and causes you too much future harm and could be permanent harm. So that's my health tip for you. My spot of humour. I'm going to embarrass myself now. My spot of humour is some Christmas selections from the psychiatric profession. And I've been having a fair bit to do with the psychiatric profession recently, for one reason or another. So, for schizophrenia at Christmas time, do you hear what I hear? Reminds me of that gag about I used to be schizophrenic, but we're okay now. Here's this for the multiple personality disorder. We three queens disoriented are. Dementia. I'll be home for Christmas. Where do I live? Narcissistic. Hark the herald angels sing about me. Manic. Deck the halls and walls and house and lawn and streets and stores and office and town and cars and buses and trucks and trees and fire hydrants, and with holly, we need more holly. Paranoid. Santa Claus is coming to get me. Personality disorder. You better watch out. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna pout. Maybe I'll tell you why. But if you love me, you would know already. Depression. Silent anhedonia. Holy anhedonia. All is flat. All is lonely. And lastly, passive-aggressive personality. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me, and then took it all away. Well, there you are. There's my embarrassing singing effort for you. Julie thinks I'm making a fool of myself. I hope I didn't offend your ears too much, and I hope I'm not going to be too embarrassed about what I've done. So, that's it for this episode, our Christmas edition. Think about embarrassment at Christmas and liberate yourself so that the fear of embarrassment is not unduly debilitating for you. I hope you found these insights and lessons of some value to remind you of the freedom of being a child at Christmas, of letting it out more than you might otherwise do so. I again invite you to visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. My books are available. Passionate People Produce Passionate Performance. And to finish, I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. I thank you for spending the year with the Charles Kovess Show. I wish you a loveful, there you are, do you like that? A loveful Christmas. Hope you get the presents that you deserve. I hope I get many more presents than I deserve. I hope you keep on the road to discovering your passion, and I look forward to being with you in 2022. Thanks for being here. Bye.